Hello, everybody, and welcome into my latest live broadcast. Today is the 26th of February, 2021. My name is Kerry Holzman. Thanks, you guys, so much for joining me today. It's really frustrating to me that I thought I was broadcasting 10 minutes ago. YouTube changed a setting on me. So here I've been talking to myself, and I'm realizing that nobody can see or hear me. So now you should be able to see and hear me, and I will redo everything I've done over the last 10 minutes because it's very strange the way OBS and YouTube work together, in that OBS says it's streaming, but it's streaming to an address that doesn't exist because YouTube changed it, and YouTube didn't tell me they changed it. And I told YouTube, keep using the same settings, and YouTube changed it on me anyway. So what are you going to do? It's something I've got to watch out for in the future, because that's not the first time it's happened. So I'm going to do my best to repeat everything I've already done and lost, which sucks for me, but you know, it's the first time you're hearing it. Maybe I'll do it even better the second time. Welcome in, everybody, all my friends in blue. Good to see you. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me on this Friday. Rick Hubbard contributed £5. Hey, Rick, thank you as always. And who else? Was there somebody else? No, just Rick. Hey, Rick, thank you. So today I want to finish up the Threadripper build. If you've been watching the channel for some time, you will have joined me on the journey of building an original Threadripper. It's like a 1950X or something, I can't remember. And it was nothing but problems, headaches, one problem after the other for years. For 2 years, I tried getting that thing running stable. Once I got it all figured out, it's just too slow. Like an AMD 3900X is faster than that, and less cooling requirements, less expense, and less trouble. So I was reluctant to do another Threadripper build, but I talked to a gentleman named Anthony Remis over at Remis Computer Solutions. And Anthony's a good guy. He builds these things every day like they're nothing. Explained to him the dilemma, you know, should I even consider investing back in Threadripper ever again? Are the newest generation any better? He said they are if you use the right parts, and then he guided me to the ASUS motherboard and the G-Skill FlareX RAM that we're using in the build. So altogether, it's about a $6,000 build. And when I built it on camera, we built it without a case. I wasn't sure what case I was going to put it in, and with my past experience with Threadripper, I wanted to make sure that everything worked outside of the case before I repeat what happened with the first Threadripper build. And everything worked great, no problems. And so I have this Antec Torque case, and this case, it appears to be designed by people who've never put a computer together before and approved by management that has no idea how a computer goes together. It appears that the engineers who designed it and the managers who approved it have no idea that there's such a thing as cabling, because they don't afford you any sort of cable management consideration in the least bit. This case is 100% naked. It is completely naked. And I would wish that the people at Antec would actually eat their own dog food and build in their own cases, because Antec has some of, in my opinion, the worst cases on the market by a major manufacturer. You don't really see Antec cases on this channel, or Antec products in general, because I feel like, you know, in the 90s, Antec, or even in the early 2000s, like up to about 2005, maybe even up to 2010, Antec was a very reputable, respected manufacturer in my eyes. Now they just seem to be scraping the bottom of the barrel, and they can't seem to decide which part of the business they want to get into. If they want to sell the cheap crap that's poorly made, and just you associate Antec with that cheap, poorly made crap. I don't know why they would do that to their brand name, but this is what they've done. Or they want to do high-end cases. This is a $400 case, and then give you no cable management consideration. It's like nobody knew that things hook up. You just put a motherboard in there and you're done, right? No, of course not. There's a lot of cables. Now, this problem can be solved, I suppose, if you're a fabricator or you have a creative imagination and you're artsy and you're able to use wire looms and a creative way, or you're able to somehow fabricate some plastic that could be like Panduit against the edge of the case. What a shame that with this kind of money, Antec would be so discourteous and inconsiderate. It's as if they just didn't know. I mean, that's the only justification I can come up with. And I wouldn't be surprised. I talked to a gentleman at Corsair who designed a case, and this was at the Consumer Electronics Show, and I asked him what education did he have in thermodynamics and understanding airflow and case, how cases are designed. He said he didn't have any of that education. He was just a basic, everyday, ordinary Corsair employee with a case idea, and then Corsair humored him and let him design the case. And it was, again, one of my least favorite cases, and you could tell the person who designed it had no proper engineering or thermodynamics education. It's really obvious. And why Corsair would do that is beyond my understanding. Now, I'm not suggesting that the case is going to cause you harm or anything like that. It's just, to me, it was a case that didn't make any sense. It just looked like it looked like exactly what it was, just like this one. It looks like somebody who doesn't really understand the needs of computers designed a case based solely on its looks. And that's what's happened here. This case is designed to look cool. But the problem is with the case being naked, fully open, and without any cable management consideration, there's a limit to how good it's going to look because of that. There's only one piece missing on this case, and that's the other piece of glass. You see that piece of glass there? There's another matching piece of glass that goes on the side that's towards me right now. That's it. The case is done. It's put together. So there's no way you can hide the cables behind a piece of glass that's completely see-through. It's not really even tinted. And the same is true on this side, even more so. So I did use a modular power supply in order to, only have the cables I needed in there. And from the original build video, I've changed the power supply out. This is now a $350 Seasonic Prime 1300 watt modular power supply. I think it's got a 12-year warranty or something. It's expensive, but you're going to have it a long time. And then I'm adding twice as much of the same RAM. And then I've put it into this Antec Torque case, which again is a beautiful case, very unique design, built by somebody who obviously has never put a computer together before. So, I mean, the case, they built the case with front panel header, so they knew it had wires. But I guess they thought, well, I don't know what they were thinking. They just didn't consider it. Or they thought, let's just make this look as cool as possible and then let there be a bunch of cables that can distract people from its attractive looks. And the management went, that's a great idea. Let's sign off on that and have the factory tooled and manufacture it. Now, if you're okay with that, that's great. I'm okay with it too. I just wish I would have known before I made the purchase. That being said, I wasn't able to get the additional 4 RAM modules in. I got 3 of the 4 in there, but there's a 4th one still in the package. And that's where my GPU removal tool comes into play. You see, in order to get that 4th memory module in, it's underneath this fan right here. In order to take this fan out, there's a hook up here and a hook down there. And the graphics card is in the way of me releasing that hook. It can be done, it's very difficult. So I need to take the graphics card out. But taking the graphics card out is equally difficult because the heat sink's in the way. So the graphics card's in the way of removing the heatsink, and the heatsink's in the way of removing the graphics card. This is a very common problem we run into, especially on higher end builds. And there is no such thing as a GPU removal tool. Or is there? This is my design. And with the help of AC's drafting, you'll see in the chat room. I don't know if he's in there today, but he hangs out in the chat room a lot. Well, he does drafting, right? That's what he does. And he reached out to me. He said, I could design that for you. I said, great, please do. And so he did. And so then I had, these like AutoCAD-ish, what do you want to call it? Like 3D CAD kind of files that are used in designing in fabrication. And he's like, here you go, you can print this out on a 3D printer. Well, I don't have a 3D printer and I'm not gonna buy one. But I do have a friend of mine who is very much into computers and he loves reverse engineering stuff. And I asked him if he would do this, if he would print this for me, and he says, yeah, would you be open to suggestions for improvement? And I'm like, yes, please, but let's just start with this first. And then we had a little problem where the conversion, when it was into the 3D software, 3D printing software, had converted the inches to millimeters, so the tool was going to print about that. So we did our best to correct it, and it's still a little short. It should be about 12 inches long. I think we're 10 inches on this. And it's a little too flexible. I mean, we don't want it so stiff that it'll crack and break, but we're going to be putting a lot of pressure on this to get it into the tight spot between the heatsink and the graphics card to hit the release mechanism, which is right there. Now, some people will grab a ruler or they might grab a spudging tool, but there is no such thing as a GPU removal tool. And this is my first prototype of my design. Again, thanks to Aaron and to Jesse for their assistance in being able to take an idea and create it into something I can hold in my hands. This, I already know there's going to be some improvements on this already, and this is just version 1. When I get to a final version, it'll be a lot more stiff, it'll be a little bit longer, it may have a different color scheme, and it'll have a lot more weight. Right now this thing weighs like 2 or 3 ounces, there's nothing to it. But we'll add some weight into the handle, and then I'll look into mass manufacturing so I can sell them here on the channel, since it doesn't exist. I have no interest in becoming a tool designer, and I don't have any interest in selling tools. But since nobody else is doing it, and I need one, and I have to go through all the effort of having it made for me, I might as well, look into having others made until somebody copies my idea. I anticipate iFixit will come up with the GPU removal tool once it's brought to their attention. I'm not looking to patent this in any way, shape, or form. If a professional tool manufacturer wants to steal this idea, please steal it, because you guys know how to make tools. That's what you do. It's not what I do. This is out of necessity. I have to have it. I'm sick and tired of how often I run into this problem. If I was just a home user and I did this once every few years, it wouldn't be worth it. Just suffer with use a ruler or stick something in there and take your risk. But I do this way too often. And so at this point now, this looks like a problem that's going to get worse before it gets better. The frequency with which I encounter this particular dilemma is happening more and more and more. And I can't sit around and wait for a tool manufacturer to get off their butt and acknowledge the need for the tool. So perhaps after I make it and people start talking about it, maybe then they'll change their minds. So I'm not looking to get rich off it. I'm not looking to make a point. I don't need credit or nothing. I just need that tool to exist. I need somebody to make it. I don't want to do this. This is not what I signed up to be a computer technician for, is to make t-shirts and sell screwdrivers. However, what are you going to do? So with Threadripper, I want you to know that all the updated parts that have been changed since the original build, those are all in the parts list that are in the video notes below. If you're keen-eyed, you may have noticed this machine has Windows 10 for Workgroups installed. You might say, what's that? Well, Windows 10 for Workgroups is a version of Windows 10 that is designed for heavy workloads. It is not designed for gamers. However, just to be clear, it will work on games, and regular Windows 10 Professional will work in a production environment where machines are being used for work. However, if you have this high end of hardware, this much RAM and this many cores, Windows 10 Professional will not take advantage of them like Windows 10 for Workgroups will. So Windows 10 for Workgroups is intended for high-end computer builds being used for work to increase productivity by better optimizing Windows 10 to take advantage of your excessive amounts of RAM and CPU cores. Okay, so it's not a must-have. It's simply optimized for this use. You can Google Windows 10 for Workgroups to learn more about the differences, but for most of you out there, it would not benefit you. It wouldn't hurt you, it wouldn't benefit you. For people that are actually rendering out things, doing CAD work, or have really large workloads on machines with 64 gigs or more of RAM, They have a ton of cores and things like that. If they're actually using them, then Windows 10 for Workgroups that's why it exists. It's for them. But like I said, they would work just fine with regular Windows 10 Pro. It just wouldn't be as efficient. A couple of contributions have come in, so my thanks to Colin Hunt with £5, Joe Narciso with $5 Canadian, and Freedom Flights with $2.99. Hey, thank you, you guys. Thanks for your support. Now, so because I've got to take the fan off, which means I got to take the CPU out, I might as well change the CPU out to the 3090. I was able to get one, believe it or not. And so I'll pull this 2080 out, since it's got to come out anyway. And then instead of putting it back in, we'll put, I got a brand new Gigabyte RTX 3090 sitting there. So altogether, this is like I said, I think it's about $6,000. And well, it's intended for the channel. Like, I wouldn't want to sell it to a customer with cabling like this. It's good enough, but not good enough for me to sell to somebody like that. But if somebody was like, hey, it doesn't bother me, I'll give you $6 grand for it, I'd consider it. The whole point of this build was really just to do something high-end and different on this channel. Customers don't order stuff like this from me, and I don't really want to build stuff like this for customers because it could be damaged very easily in shipping. And because of its size and weight, shipping would be very expensive and damage would be more likely to occur. That being said, you know, money talks. If I hear offers, I'll consider them. But in the meantime, it'll just be for the channel as a showpiece, or a showcase, if you want to call it that. Chris Mole contributes £10, says, good evening all, just a little something. Hey, thank you, Chris. Thanks to all of you there in the chat room. What I say, Windows 10 for Workstation. Did I say for Workgroups? I apologize. Thank you for the correction. This is what happens when you get old. Windows 3.1.1 was for Workgroups. Windows 10 is for Workstations. Thank you for correcting me. I was going to say I can't believe I did that, but actually I totally can believe I did that. That's a good correction. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't mean to confuse anybody. I myself was the confused one. So yes, Windows 10 for Workstations. That's what you want to Google. Wow. Well, I'm glad we caught that while I was live. Okay. So again, all the parts, everything here is listed in the video, in the notes below the video. So let's get to taking some stuff apart. So this graphics card's got to come out of here. And we can do a couple of different things here. Let's move this down and out of the way. Now, this whole side panel can come off if it's in our way. The way that they've designed the case is, well, it looks like we're kind of jittery there. The way they've designed the case, you can remove these screws, and all this black, whatever this material is, this metal-like material, this comes off and exposes this whole opening. I don't think it's going to be in our way, though, at this point, because we're just going to, everything we need to do is right in this area. And that's why, you know, the glass hasn't been put on this side yet. The glass is still completely in its original shipping styrofoam. I haven't even touched it because we're just not there yet on the build. But I need to start by removing the two screws that hold the graphics card in. And let's see, Colin Hunt contributes again, £10. Thank you, Colin. All right, so let me do what I can here to get this opened up. We'll take out these two screws. Probably should have unplugged the power from it first, but that's all right, we'll do that now. We just don't want to pull on that card too much. With the screws there, it could pop out if it's not fully seated. Okay, so we're just going to set that aside for now. Now, to get the card out, usually you'd have to wiggle on it. And so that's where this tool is going to come in right here. I'm just going to grab this, and I'm going to do my best. It was the first time I've ever used this. Never tried it before. I can see the release mechanism right here. I'm going to push on the edge of it, And what's happening, this is too flexible right now. It's really wobbly. So I'm gonna try and pull or wiggle on the card while I push on the connector, on the latch. One of the reasons the tool needs to be a little longer is I'm already bumping against the edge of the heatsink with the edge of the tool here. And as I'm pressing on the tool and it's bending, it's moving this even, right up against that heatsink. So this tool's too wobbly. It's got to be stiffened up. Maybe this piece has to be a bit thicker in the design, but again, not so thick that it would crack. I mean, you can see I've got a lot of play in this. And we do want that. We don't want, to have a tool that's just going to break. But on the other hand, if it's so flexible, we can't keep it straight enough to bend the tab back, then I'm right back to the same place I was, which is having to MacGyver it. So now that I've had a chance to try this tool, I already know for a fact what I suspected was going to be a problem. And I'm going to go back to doing it the old school method, which is to grab just a flat straight edge ruler. This ruler has cork on the other side, so I don't have to worry about shorting things out. And then I'm going to just slide it in there. And I just don't want to keep doing this. I really want a tool for this. And hopefully this one will be stiff enough that I can push down. By the way, if you're wanting to remove your graphics card and you're doing what I'm doing, you should be laying this case down. I have to have it upright for you to see what I'm doing. With that in mind, I have a very expensive kit coming that is the framework that will go around the table and allow me to mount a light and a camera. This whole thing is going to cost me a couple $1,000s, and I hope to have it next week. But it's portable, so I can, if I have to leave this location, it just folds up and you can take it away. But yeah, it's a couple of grand. But when I have it, hopefully it'll sit high enough up. It'll be way up there that you guys won't necessarily see the rig on camera, but you'll see this great top-down shot. And then I can lay the computer down like I'm supposed to. But in the meantime, I'm going to do it like this, even though it's harder for me. I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. And all I'm trying to do is hit that release mechanism. There it goes. And then the graphics card easily comes out. Don't force any computer parts. If something's not coming out easily, you're doing it wrong. So there's our 2080. I'm going to just set it down over here. And this will be part of an upcoming project. So let's just put that over there. And with that removed, I can remove this hook now. This is that hook way underneath. I can unhook it and unhook it from the top. And you just pull on these hooks and then pull them away. And we don't have to unplug the fan. I can just set it up out of the way like this. And then I can have full access to that last RAM socket right there. So with the right tool, this is not a big deal. Unfortunately, my first prototype, didn't really think about that. I wanted it thin so it can fit into tight spaces, but I've made it too thin. We're going to have to double that up. Now it looks like we might be having some buffering issues. I keep seeing the video skipping around a little bit, so please bear with me. I still don't have the best internet here in this other studio, but it's just better than it's ever been in the past. So now I can finally get this last memory module in. And once again, When it comes to installing memory, I would have the case laying flat. With this case, you'd need to remove the glass first, or you will probably crack or scratch the glass. But I'm going to do it upright, which is really doing it the hard way. And there's probably not much you can see anyway at this point, because I'm right in front of it and I can barely see. It's very dark, and I'm running right up against the other RAM, and I'm just trying to find the track. It's just not sitting in the track. There it goes. Once again, don't force anything. The RAM should slide into the track. Once it's in the track properly and evenly on both sides, then you can press down and you'll hear it click on one end and go to the other end. And then just double check them, make sure they're fully seated. Doesn't hurt to make sure all the rest on that side are fully seated while you're there. And so that gets our RAM installed like that. Frank Jimmy contributes $5. He says, give your all-in-one cooler a name tag. Hello, my name is NCXT Kraken Z63. Buy me on Amazon. No, I don't know. What am I, a sales pitch person for NZXT? Get out of here. All right, now, go faster sticker can go out of the box. Thank you for the contribution, though, Frank. I appreciate it. All right, here's our Gigabyte GeForce RTX 3090. Inevitably, the conversation will turn to graphics cards. When are graphics cards going to be available? Graphics cards are widely available, just not at the prices you want to pay. There's no issue with, if you want to buy this card, you can go on eBay. I'm sure you can buy this card. I'm sure you'll probably pay $500 or $600 over the manufacturer's suggested retail price. However, the previous generation of cards, like that 2080 I just pulled out, that's like $1,000 card. So if you spend $1,000 on a 3070, you might think you're overpaying for it, but performance-wise, you're getting a heck of a deal when compared with the 20 series. But the fact is, all graphics cards right now are marked up. Even graphics cards that are 3, 4, 5 years old are being sold for ridiculous amounts of money, in my opinion. And the strange thing, and I want you to think about this for a minute, graphics cards are not like gasoline. It's not like somebody used them up and they're a finite resource. They can just keep making more graphics cards. So what happened to the graphics cards that have been made in the last 10 years? How many graphics cards do you have personally? And so all people are doing is buying more graphics cards. Most of the people, in my opinion, trying to buy a graphics card today already have one. They just feel that it's not good enough anymore, even though it works perfectly fine and up to the performance of exactly the way it ran when it was brand new. They don't wear out. They don't get slower. It's just people get dissatisfied and they want more. It's like gluttony. They can never have enough. It's like heroin or a drug addiction. And then when you tell somebody they can't have something, there's a certain percentage of people that want it worse. They may not have cared. They could have taken it or leaving it when there was plenty of them to choose from. But now that they're hard to get, now they want one. My advice for you is simply to pay the price that's being asked or to enjoy what you have. And if neither of those options are good for you, then buy a pre-built computer that already has the graphics cards you want. You know, there's plenty of pre-builts available with 3070s you can buy and even 3080s. Possibly even 3090s, although the 3090s are more rare, and more than twice the money. So not many people want to buy the 3090, even if they could. It's not worth it. For the performance benefit of the 3090, you know, it's twice the price and just a few percentage points faster. The people generally who want the 3090 want it for the VRAM. It's like 24 gigs of VRAM or something. And that means they're probably doing some form of rendering or CAD work. You know, they're actually working. They're not playing games. And when you're working and you're making, you know, $1 million a year, you know, you're making significant amount of money, then this is a drop in the bucket, whether it's $1,700 or $4,000. It doesn't matter to companies. They don't care. Some companies care, but for the most part, if you can make $75,000 from having this card, then whether you pay $1,700 or you pay $3,000 doesn't really matter, because the big picture is without it, you won't make $75,000. If you're a gamer and you're just trying to impress your friends, or you got money burning a hole in your pocket, you know, it's just not an issue I'd be concerned with as a professional. Now, that being said, of course, the last thing you can do if you really have that much time and money on your hands is just keep refreshing web pages for inventory to come back in. Best Buy is probably one of the most popular places where people will be purchasing their graphics cards during the next few months here in the United States, and perhaps even Micro Center as well, where those are available. There's a lot more Best Buys than there are Micro Centers. But that being said, of course, the new 3060s came out today or yesterday, and they're already sold out, of course. And then the price is going up on those, which doesn't make any sense. The idea was to introduce a lower budget graphics card that people could afford. But because everybody's buying graphics cards like it's gold or platinum or something, they can't keep anything in stock at any price. So they just keep raising the price. And then we separate the wheat from the chaff. You know, the people who have the money and want to buy it, they're going to get one. And the people who don't want to spend that kind of money or don't have that kind of money to spend, they're going to wait. It's that simple. If you don't want to ever deal with this ever again, stop participating in it. The only reason this exists is because there are people out there who find it a priority or an urgency in their life to acquire a graphics card strictly for the purpose of a luxury of gaming. And if you would stop playing with the rest of the sheep, you would prevent, or you would no longer be a part of this epidemic of false economy. You're voting with your dollars. And so if you said, look, the whole graphics card situation is really messed up right now, and I am not going to overpay, and I'm not going to keep refreshing websites, and I'm not even going to buy a pre-built, because I am effectively going to be in cancel culture attitude. I highly recommend it. The more of us who exhibit a cancel culture attitude towards the graphics card industry will lower the desire and let the sheep be sheep, stand out of the way, and then when they're all exhausted, then you can just walk up casually and buy what you want at a regular, non-inflated price. That's the best advice I've got. Stop perpetuating it. Don't be a part of the problem. So complaining about it, you're part of the problem. Just don't care. Just say, you know what? This is not for me. This is not the type of, this is not the reason I got into PCs and gaming, was to deal with this nonsense, and I refuse to participate. Find something else. Go buy a console. I know consoles are in a bad shape right now. Even Tesla had to shut down their factory for a couple of days because they can't even get the chips they need for the engine management. So it's not just graphics cards, but graphics cards are really suffering right now. And when it's the gamers and enthusiasts, you're just making it worse. You're not making it worse for everybody else. You're making it worse for you. And if you don't want it to be worse for you, stop. Stop desiring something that's not worth desiring. When these cards reach a certain point of exceeding what they're worth, how is it worth it to you to keep coveting one? It doesn't make any sense to me. it's your life and it's your money. You're welcome to do whatever you want with it. But as long as you keep up that attitude like everybody else, then like everybody else, you're contributing to making the problem worse. It starts with you. It starts with you saying, I am not going to participate in this. And I don't care. Gaming's not that important. You probably already have a GPU, and it's probably just fine. It's been fine until you decided for some reason, through comparing it to somebody else online probably, that it wasn't good enough for you anymore. And if you'd stopped that and you just appreciated what you had, you wouldn't feel like you're missing out on anything. It's very much all psychological attitude that you have full voluntary control over. But if you want to suffer and you want to spend, don't let me get in your way. But I will be standing aside. As a system builder, I have had some ability to get some parts that are for system builders, just like you can buy a pre-built with a 3070, but you can't buy the 3070. That's because the people who build computers, the system builders, the system integrators, they're buying in larger quantities. And as a result, instead of selling, every GPU to Best Buy or Micro Center, the distributors know that they can get, a certain amount of money from one sale. So if they go to Dell, how many graphics cards do you think Dell's going to want? A lot. You think Dell's going to go without so they can put more to Best Buy? Dell's a bigger, more consistent customer than Best Buy will ever be. As a result, they have to divide the inventory as best they can, but always paying attention to the bottom line. And you'll find that system builders can often get stuff you can't get, and they often pay less for it than you pay. It's like shopping at Costco. They're buying in bulk. They're not just going to buy one 3090 graphics card. They're going to buy 6,000 if they can get 6,000 or whatever. It's going to be a number that's going to boggle your mind, and they'll probably go through them in a couple of months. Or if it's Dell, they might go through them in a couple of weeks. So that's the dilemma distribution is in. You've got to take care of the big whales. You have to. You don't want to lose their business. If they lose your business, they don't care. You're like a little guppy. But the big whales, you got to take care of them. So if you're swimming with the big whales, and I'm not a big whale, but I swim with them, sometimes I'm afforded that same opportunity. And if I had to fight tooth and nail to get these graphics cards, I wouldn't have them. Trust me, I don't have time to play that game, and I wouldn't have it. So when an opportunity arose for me to get, actually there were two opportunities to get a 3090. I turned the first one down. And that's because the source was shady. And it might have been just fine, it might have been on the up and up, but I wasn't familiar with the source, and I didn't really trust it. It was coming from the opposite side of the country, and it's a lot of money. So I just held out. I knew there'd be another opportunity, and about a month later, another opportunity came up. And I'd like you to remember this, because if you're feeling like today is representative of the rest of your life, it isn't. The graphics card situation, much like the gasoline situation, is a temporary one. One of the things I learned growing up as a teenager in the 1980s is you really had to learn how to sort of put your head down and weather a storm. You didn't really have any options back then. You didn't have a choice. So for me, it's not a big deal. This is how I was raised. You wait. You have to know patience, and you've got to still be standing when the storm is over with. This is not a go run and hide. This is a put your head down and brave through it. It's not that big of a deal. The gasoline here is $2.99 a gallon, when a few weeks ago it was $2.45 a gallon. It's shot up 55 cents in 3 weeks. It's temporary. A couple more weeks, eventually it'll come back down. So what, who cares? You're buying 10 gallons at a time maybe. You're like, so it's $5 more than it was 3 weeks ago. Gasoline is still the cheapest part of operating a car. But that being said, it all ties in together in that people are making a bigger deal out of nothing, in my opinion, than it needs to be. These graphics cards, if they're not being used to make money, then they're just a luxury gaming item, and you don't need it to live. And chances are, if you're one of those people, you already have a graphics card. You just decided for some reason it wasn't good enough for you anymore. I'm sure it works just fine. I'm sure it works as well today as it did the day you bought it. And if you just continue to use it for the rest of 2021, by 2022, I imagine things should start to return back to normal as far as computer parts go. And if you don't want to take my advice, you don't have to. I don't care. It doesn't affect my life one way or the other, but I wouldn't want to go through life like that. You know, that's just my attitude. It just sounds like misery. Let's see. Looking in the chat to see what I've been missing. Jason says he's still satisfied with his 1080. Sure. I have plenty of 1080s. My streamer in Threadripper, I think, is that one a 1080? I know one of the streamers still has a 1080 on it. Stealth Mode said he's happy with his GTX 980. Sure. Someone said they're still rocking a 470. I mean, if it's meeting your needs, it's great. No reason to have to compare yourself to other people and then consider yourself unhappy anymore. That's just a terrible way to go through life. A very expensive way to go through life. I strongly recommend you don't fall into that trap. Let's see, in the contribution side of things, Frank Jimmy contributes again, $5. He says, give your all-in-one, oh yeah, we said that one already. Angel contributes $5 and says, hello everyone. Hey Angel, how you doing, buddy? Thanks for hanging out with us. I got a really nice email from a viewer who was sending pictures of their build to me via, I guess it was Facebook Messenger. And they said that Catherine helped him pick parts, and he's like, you know, got talking with Catherine, and she's a fantastic person, and I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And Catherine's there in the chat room today. If you're looking to build a computer and you're not quite sure what parts are best for your needs and your budget, Catherine will help you put together a system to meet your needs and budget. And she does it for free because she enjoys it. And she's right there in the chat, Catherine Anna Hauserman. And she's been doing it for years. And nobody's had a negative thing to say. So the parts that she selects, you know, she's not going to go cheap on you. She's not going to recommend the most expensive thing. And she is going to do the research to make sure everything's compatible. So there's not many people on the planet like that to do something that requires that much time and research for a complete stranger for free. So if you're interested, reach out to Catherine and she'll be glad to help you. I have a minor request, and that is that you treat her with respect. Don't be pushy. Don't say, hey, answer me faster. And do say thank you. That's my request. And if you're not willing to do that, then please leave her alone, because that's not cool. Okay, graphics card time. The link that I put in the video notes for this graphics card is a slightly different graphics card because I can't find this graphics card on Amazon at all. So I just put the closest thing I could find to it. Just a heads up. It won't matter because either way it's not available. So, but I did the best I could. Normally I would buy EVGA graphics cards, but as you can imagine, if I wanted this card, I didn't have the luxury of picking the manufacturer. It was like, oh, if you want it, here's what you can have. So, okay, I'll take it. So here's the packaging. And the card, and like nothing else at all is in this package. This might be a problem. I thought there was supposed to be a power adapter in here. Well, about to find out. Maybe not. Maybe this one's a little different. I thought these had like a 12-pin power connector. The tape is sealed. This set me back a little over $1,700 just for this. Oh, okay. No, this doesn't use the proprietary connector. Thank goodness. And this appears to be a blower style card, which is also interesting. Wasn't aware they were still making blower style cards. It's heavy too. Not as heavy as that original video card that went into, was that a Vega 64 that went into the original Threadripper? This is nearly that heavy, not quite as heavy. So here's what the Gigabyte GeForce RTX 3090 looks like close up with the turbo. This is the turbo edition, it's called, because it's the blower style. So blower style means that this whole area is enclosed, and this fan is going to suck air in and blow it across the insides, and then there's going to be venting on this side. This whole thing is a vent, and you'll feel the hot air coming out of there when it's cranking up. And then we've got our video ports down below. I like that this is not 3 slots wide either. It's just 2 slots wide. Unlike that 3080 I had, the 3080 still only had the 2 tabs, but it was still covering a 3rd slot. So here's a 3090 that's more powerful, not quite as bulky. So looks like Gigabyte did a good job in the design, unless the thing is loud. And I like how they've moved the connectors to the back. You noticed before, remember I talked about how the cabling is fully exposed, and you saw those cables going right into the side of the card. I like that the cables are going to go into the end of the card. And eventually it'll be nice if we could, I don't know, move this down closer to the motherboard so that we don't, I don't know why they insist on putting it where people can see it, but this is an industry problem. Paul says his RTX 3080 requires 4 slots. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, $1,700. Actually, it was more than $1,700 because there was shipping and tax. But yeah, what are you gonna do? So there's always a little cover. I don't know why they put that on there. Now this is just gonna go in exactly the same way. I'm just gonna slide that in. Once again, it's best to lay the computer down when you're doing this instead of doing it the way I'm showing. And hopefully, like I didn't hear it click, but it's not coming back out. So we're in there good. And then I'll secure it. Oh, in there goes another shirt. Put this out of the way. Let's put this here. We'll get this lined up. There's one. And there's 2. Oh, I have made an error. You see, with that video card in, I'm not going to be able to get that fan back on because it requires me to hook it back on. And I got so kind of lost in my discussion of graphics cards that I didn't prep for this. This has to go in last after the fan goes back on. So before I go any further, let me correct that little oversight, which again is going to require me to remove the GPU. You can understand how frustrating this can be if you're working on a system and have done what I have done and you don't have any proper tool to release that locking mechanism that's holding the GPU in. So I'll continue to use the ruler until I have a proper tool designed. I'm not happy about it. And it helps if you kind of come in on an angle because that little lever moves that way. And you may have to wiggle a little bit on the card at the same time. That's normal. There it goes. And again, my concern is if the tool is made of metal and it slips, that you scratch the circuit board. In this case, we've got a lot of plastic covering things, so not really an issue in this motherboard design. However, with the tool I'm designing, that's kept into consideration in the material that we're using to build it. That material needs to be flexible, but you know, it can't crack, or that wouldn't be good. Now with that RAM module in, that's fan, if you're paying close attention, you'll see the top of the fan stood out a little bit from the top of the heatsink. That's normal. Now with the RAM underneath it, it's probably gonna even be a little bit higher. That's why these hooks are there, so you can adjust where the fan sits. So I'm just gonna let the fan touch the RAM. And then you pull on these little metal, I call them wire hangers. And it should just lock in. And now it's a bit higher. Okay, so it appears my OBS is having a little connection issue here, so bear with me. We're doing the best we can with the internet that we have. So anyway, you haven't missed anything. Fan's back on. I'm gonna put the graphics card back in, make sure that latch is in the open position. And then we're gonna just put this right back in. I'm gonna remind you again, you should be doing this with the case laying flat. And if you're worried about scratching your case, or you have glass on the other side of your case, you'd obviously want to remove that before you lay it on that side, right? Because when you lay it down on something, you could scratch it. So with this case, that glass would have to come off, or I could really damage the glass otherwise. So I've got the graphics card back in, and now I should be able to lock it back in place. Now this has always been a quiet computer. I hope this is not a loud GPU. Otherwise, I will have spent money to make the system annoying. And if that happens, I'll probably swap this out with a lower end GPU until I can get my hands on a like a 3-axial or a 3-fan GPU. But this is all I could get. So let's see what it is. We'll evaluate it. My cabling, I've already got everything right, except the previous card needed a 4-pin. I'm sorry, this is actually an 8-pin and a 6-pin. This one needs 2 8-pins. So I need to get my wire cutters and cut away the extra 2-pin that I shoved aside because it looked ugly, having just this 2-pin cable hanging there. And had I known that I was going to get this card, and had I known it was going to require those power connections, I would have not have gone through that cable management process. But it's just one extra zip tie. It's not the end of the world. Just wasted some time and a quarter of a penny on a zip tie I didn't need to use. Or 2 zip ties. Let's see what it takes. Let's cut this one free. Be careful when you cut through your zip ties that you don't cut your cables, or you're going to be in a real bad mood. Okay, so there's my 2 power connectors. And this should be it. Once I get this plugged in, now that we've got the RAM in there and the heatsink hooked back up and the fan back on, we can test fire it and bring it up and see what it looks like. I have to look to see where the connectors are going on this, because I'm a little confused. I think it's going to make sense to plug this first cable onto the first connector, which I cannot see. It is completely pitch black in there. And I've got a well-lit room and I cannot see in there. I don't expect you will be able to see in there if I can't see in there. But you know from looking at the card what I'm about to do, which is to simply plug those 2 power cables on one at a time. Just trying to figure out, oh, it looks like they go on opposite. So one's got a clip that faces away and one's got a clip that faces towards. That's interesting. I kind of like that, because otherwise it would make them very difficult to remove if the clip existed between the 2 connectors. Okay, so there's Okay, so there's the first connector on. And then the second connector, I've got to twist it this way. Thank goodness. Like I said, otherwise this little clippy would be between the two and you'd never be able to get, I guess you'd be able to get it off if you took the one in the back off first, but you wouldn't have a choice. Like you wouldn't be able to take this one off first. So this design means you can start at either side. I like that. It's well thought out, unlike this Antec case. Have I gone on about that enough? See, that's going to go there. Oh, wait, I got to go this way. Clip has to be on the outside. That means this little 2-pin connector is going to be towards the bottom instead of towards the top. Now, they may actually prefer, I haven't looked at any documentation, but the card manufacturer might be advising you to use 2 separate video cables so they each have, so you're not sharing that power drain off one cable. I am not worried about that at this point right now. I just want it to work. And I don't anticipate pushing the system for that period of time where power draw would exceed what these cables can deliver. However, I will say that if I started to get some crashing, the first thing I would do, if the crashing was occurring, especially under any video loads, is I would give each plug its own cable. No reason to not do it. I mean, the power supply certainly has it. My reason for not doing it is I don't like that I can't hide the cables, so I don't want to add an extra cable if I don't have to. And I already have this cable here, and to get another cable out would require more effort. And I'm just way too lazy for that. I can't be bothered. Unless I have to. I'll do it if I have to. Whether or not I have to, that remains to be seen. And you know me, I don't like to take anybody's word for nothing. I like to have my own experiences. The internet's filled with a bunch of people who claim to know it all who actually are the exact opposite. So we're going to find out right here and right now if this is going to be a problem for me. So let me get it hooked up. Let's see what it'll do. We'll start with power cable. I've got the power supply in the off position. So we'll plug power in there. I need a video cable to go into an HDMI slot. We've got HDMI right there. Lucky guess. I need an HDMI cable. Here's an HDMI cable right here. It's kind of exciting. I'll actually be done with this. It'll be done. All I'll have to do is put that piece of glass on the other side, and I can move on to other adventures. This adventure will be complete, if it works. Hey, I built it. Of course it's gonna work. There's no cheap parts in there. Didn't, bargain shop off AliExpress. Buy some questionable piece of junk. All right, let's plug this in here. Like that. Okay, so HDMI is in. I need a keyboard and mouse. I guess I can use this one over here. Another little keyboard and mouse. I'll just put them over here for now. Little dongle. We'll use the front USB ports up here for the dongle. Okay, you guys ready for this? I hope my new RAM works. I'll be really bummed out if it won't boot. We want to make sure all the fans spin. Let me turn it this way so you get a good look at what's going on. Maybe I can stand over here. Make sure this is on. Make sure that is on. I'm going to move this video feed over to camera input 2, which will be this. So when your screen says no signal, that's not you, that's me. Let's see if I can't figure this out. Let's take me and put me in the corner. That way you know you're still watching a live video and that you haven't lost the feed. And then somewhere, let's see, we'll flip the power switch on, and somewhere there's a power button. Oh, the power button's right up here, up at the front. Video card's not too loud. Let me step around and make sure all the fans are spinning. Yep, that fan is spinning. Yeah, video card fan is spinning. Hopefully it will post. Give it a minute because it's acknowledging new RAM. It's got to train that memory. So patience, here we go. We're off to a good start. And now we should boot into Windows 10 for Workstations. Workstations, not work groups. This is not 1996 anymore, Carrie. Sorry, 1993. What am I thinking? Can't even get that right. There's Threadripper's Revenge. Booted up. Look at that. That's what I'm talking about. Threadripper's Revenge is up and running. So it's initializing the video card in Threadripper's Revenge right now. And we're definitely going to want to grab the latest video driver. NVIDIA just released a new driver yesterday. And I don't want the game-ready driver. I would prefer the studio driver, and that is available. But I don't have any internet connection on this. I will need to resolve that before I go any further. But first, let's just take a look at the specs. Let's just verify that everything is the way it should be. So for me, that means I have to make my screen bigger, but you guys can probably see full screen just better than I can. But if we look at the specs of what we're running here, I better see 128 gigs of RAM in here. Yep, 128 gigs of RAM. There's our Ryzen Threadripper 3960X. This is our Windows 10 Pro for Workstations that I talked about. 20H2, there's probably some updates missing since it's been a while since I've had this on. We should be activated. They keep moving stuff around. They're gonna get rid of the control panel, and yeah, you're just gonna have to get used to that. Device IDs and product IDs are not private. I'm not exposing any license codes here, so you don't have to like alert me. Carrie, you showed your ID. IDs are not keys, okay? Do you use your ID to unlock your car, or do you use your keys? Please don't confuse IDs with keys. Please. I'm begging on my knees. For the love of trees, please don't. All right, let's get some internet on this thing. How am I gonna do that? I don't know yet. Let's try something here. Let me grab this cable, see if I can make this work without knocking everything down. It's like a little circus over here. We're gonna go in here. Good, good. I like that there's no RGB on this graphics card. That makes me happy. And then we should be able to plug in back here. Okay. So far, so good. Then I'm going to come back over here. Start. Windows settings here. Updates and security. See what we're missing. Oh, there's a new driver available. Who knew? We can do both at the same time. I'll bring up Edge. We'll go to NVIDIA. Oh, wrong keyboard. NVIDIA. Okay, video feed's looking good. I just wanted to check and make sure you guys were still seeing everything okay. All right, so over here under drivers, GeForce drivers. Manual search, 30 series. We want it for the 3090, blah, blah, blah. That's all good. Start search. Driver results, you'll see a new studio driver just came out yesterday. I want the studio driver because I use my computer for work. I know, I can't believe I said that 4-letter word on a family-friendly broadcast. This auto hiding is going to drive me nuts. I think I set it to auto hide because when I was running the benchmark on it, the benchmark was, some of the options were down at the taskbar. The taskbar was covering it up. So did it not start downloading? What's going on? I said download, didn't I? No, I guess not. All right, so that's doing that. In the meantime, what's Windows Update doing? Where did my Windows Update go? Let's go back to the control panel. Okay, so we have a new update here. We'll go ahead and install that now. And then we have a cumulative update preview. I'm going to go ahead and download that as well. You're going to get it eventually. This is just this is a big wrap-up update. So it's been released to a lot of corporations and stuff, where the consumers kind of hold out. They're the ones who, well, it doesn't matter, but it's available if you want it. I'm going to put it in. You don't have to. It'll do on its own when it's no longer a preview. But the preview basically is the final version at this point. Unless something completely drastic and unexpected happens, I'm willing to take the risk. I'm fine. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Let's see, how are we doing here? We downloaded that? We have. Okay, so I'm not going to try and do 2 installs at the same time. I want to just do one at a time. We'll let this one finish first, and it'll probably want to restart. And then when it restarts, we'll go into the download folder. We'll install the new NVIDIA driver. That'll probably want to restart again. Now, the machine is noticeably louder, and it's the graphics card. It's clearly the graphics card that's making that difference, but it's not much louder. It's just a little bit louder. And I'm sure when we run the 3D Mark tests, you're going to hear the sucker ramp up. I think I still have the photos of the screenshots of the previous tests. They should be in like pictures. So it says here's the Threadripper 2080 time spy results. Okay, so well, this is interesting, isn't it? These are the benchmark results for 3D Mark using a 2080 graphics card. This will be the 3080, and then we'll do the 3090. So everything in the machine, well, except for the RAM I just added, will be the same. You think about how much money it costs. For the difference between those 2 cards. And actually the 2080 is more money. That's a 2080 Super, I guess. But that's what we just pulled out of there. And then I had that 3080 in there, and I didn't like it because it was all rainbow puke color, RGB flashing, and I didn't want that in Thready. I wanted Thready to be more noble and dignified. So that got pulled out, and now we've got the 3090 in there. And once we have the Windows Update and the latest driver, and then keeping in mind we doubled the RAM, we'll see how much more over 11.526 will be on the exact same test, which we'll do here coming up, so you understand what's happening and why. Conquerors Play with £2 contributions. And here's a bit towards more cable ties. There's AC's Drafting, contributes $5. Thank you, AC. Rick Lakes, good to see you. He is just contributed $20. He says, I'm late, but I didn't get a notification from YouTube, but I'm here now. Well, we're glad that you joined us here, Rick. You're here for the fun stuff anyway. So good to see you. And see, Pete Stern joins us. Hey, Pete. Michael Collis says, Carrie, I hope you are well. Sorry, I haven't been online this year. It hasn't been very good so far. I'm sorry, Michael. I'm glad to see you in there. If you recall, I started building a machine for a gentleman named Muhammad. And Muhammad is in Virginia. And the communication just stopped. And I kept getting distracted. I'm like, I need to reach out to Muhammad and find out if he still wants this computer, because I was running really behind schedule, like not by days, but by months. And I just had trouble reaching out and connecting with him. And he reached out, and it's probably been, we got to be getting on to a year since he ordered a computer. And he said, sorry, I was in the hospital with lung cancer. I'm like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And he goes, yeah, I still want the computer. And I said, well, it's still here. I haven't done anything with it. I just need to wipe the dust off of it and get Windows updates on it. It's good to go. And I felt so bad about it, because here I'm thinking, that's a long time. I don't think we're at a year yet, but we're getting real close to it. And because the distance, sometimes people change their mind. I don't need it anymore. Sometimes someone loses their job and they're like, hey, I can't order that computer anymore. And that's fine. I just resell it to somebody else. And I didn't want to resell or repurpose Muhammad's build because I just wasn't hearing from him. And I'm like, do I refund his money? What do I do? And then he finally reached out and told me what was going on. And you're just like, well, thank goodness you're okay, right? Who cares about the computer now? And thank goodness it's not all on my shoulders. It's not all entirely my fault. So we'll get that one buttoned up here real soon. That happens sometimes, Life will throw you a curveball. Will it run Crisis? Yeah, it's going to run Crisis like you've never seen before. I don't think it's going to be a problem. Yeah, pretty sure. You will see some buffering from time to time with this internet feed being what it is. So, like I said, if I pre-record the videos and then upload them as standard videos, there won't be any more buffering problems on my side. But then we don't have the live interaction. So please understand that we'll sacrifice a little buffering. It's not much, in order to have this live. And even when it buffers, the audio should still be coming through, even if the video hesitates. At least I hope that's what's happening. Now it looks like that update has finished and it wants to restart. So let's go ahead and restart it. This should give you a better idea of, well, not really. I was going to say it's going to give you a better idea of boot time, but it isn't, because it's got to apply the updates in shutting down and in restarting, which means the shutdown and restart are going to take longer than normal. But here's a screen you've never seen before on your own, right? But it should happen pretty quick, regardless. We're talking a pretty powerful machine here. There it goes. It's going to reboot now. Again, on the reboot, it's still going to apply some more of the updates. So you're not getting an ideal, optimal boot time here. Yeah, see, there it goes. Okay. Now I can put the NVIDIA driver in. I do want to make sure there's no more Windows updates. I'm pretty certain we're done with those, but oops. Let's go back. View optional updates. What's optional? Intel Bluetooth. Yeah, let's grab it. Why not? And it says you're up to date. Let's check for updates one more time. Sometimes it'll say updates are available and there won't be any button to check. That's because it's installing an update in the background. So this Windows update will lie to you, just so you know. When you check those optional updates and install them, you very rarely will ever see it download them or install them. It just comes back to the main screen. It'll say updates are available, then you can't do anything. Well, what it should be saying instead of updates are available is it should say, I'm installing updates now, or just installing updates. And it should stay there until it's done. If you're patient and you wait, if you walk away and then you come back, depending on what the update is and how fast your computer is, you will eventually see the check for updates button come back when it's done. That's really disturbing that Microsoft has created this new lying behavior on the updates GUI, graphical user interface, GUI, GUI. That's really disappointing to me. That's a step in the wrong direction. Let's go to the downloads folder. Ooh, this thing is responsive. I like it. Double clicky. And let's put this driver in. This is a Samsung 970 EVO Plus 2 terabyte NVMe drive that's in there. And you'll see we've got the Samsung software, the Magician software right here to monitor the drive. If there were any updates, there'd be a capital letter N, like new, that would tell us an update is available for either the firmware of the drive or the Magician's software. It'll be right next to the word update. Again, I don't know, there's a step in the wrong direction. Why they use a letter N and not just let you know very clearly what that means is another step in the wrong direction from Samsung. Like Microsoft is a step in the wrong direction with the Windows Update. I keep seeing these companies that are reputable and have always done a good job in the past get better, and now they're going backwards the other way. I don't get it. But it's my job to explain all this to you so that you don't have to be confused by what that capital letter N means if you see it. It means there's an update waiting. You should not ignore it, in my opinion. Now, here we are with the installer. We're going to get the latest NVIDIA driver installed for this 3090, and then we're going to run 3D Mark and see what it does. Exciting times. Did I install the Samsung NVMe driver? That's what Catherine wants to know. If I click on the, sorry, I have to go back to my full screen. If I bring up the Samsung Magician software, if I can click the right thing, Carrie, full screen, there it is. Yeah, if you bring up your Samsung Magician software, which now, okay, it's just taken out and replaced the video driver. If I click on that, it will tell me under the drive details which driver I'm using. Right here it says NVMe driver is Samsung. See that? And if you have multiple M.2 slots and you're not sure if you're in the ×2 slot or the ×4 slot, this will tell you the slot that you've plugged into and even give you the serial number of your drive and the firmware number of your drive, along with the temperature of your drive and your drive's health. I love the Samsung Magician utility. That little piece of software makes buying a Samsung drive worth paying a little bit more for. Driver for NVIDIA is installed. It wants to restart. Let's go ahead and do that. And when it comes back up, we'll go ahead and run 3D Mark, and we'll compare it against the 2080 and 3080 scores. And then you can do the math in your head for how much each card costs, and you can see how much faster each card is. I will tell you right now, dollar for performance points, it doesn't add up. So we'll just get that out of the way. I want to emphasize the people who generally buy 3090s are going to do it because they need it for work. They can make more money in their job if their output can be faster. And so the 3090 is not really there for gamers. It's sort of like you can buy a super high-end sports car like a McLaren or a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or a Pagani or a Koenigsegg or a Spider. You could buy any of these just to drive back and forth to work. right? But if you're a professional driver and you have the ability to have access to a racetrack, well, that's really what these cars are designed for, right? They're not really designed to just go to dinner. You can use it for that, but you can go to dinner in anything. So, including an Uber, which is a lot less expensive. Now, now that we've got the OS loaded back up, let's go ahead and run 3D Mark and see what happens here. I'm going to lower the volume on my monitor because 3D Mark runs a demo with audio and I don't want to listen to it. And it always runs the demo on this free version, whether you like it or not. And you can download the software for free, and you can see how your rig compares to this monstrosity. Looks like we're all up to date, so all I have to do is hit run. It's got our Windows 10 information, the amount of RAM, the amount of storage is all right here. All about our CPU is right here. All about our graphics is over here. Let's just hit run, and we'll let it go. I'm trying to remember where they put the frames per second on this. I might be covering it up. They put it in the bottom left, or be it bottom right or the upper right. I can't remember. Paul says he can walk to get dinner. Even a better idea. Chip Moon says Aston Martin is the best. Hey, Aston Martin's a beautiful car. It's a beautiful car. Not quite as expensive as the others I've mentioned, but you know, they have some models that are up there. I think Aston Martin wants to go all electric by like 2025 or some ridiculous thing. Is it Aston Martin? I think it was Aston Martin. Okay, so now the demo runs. You'll know when the benchmark's running because you'll see scores. And you'll see even load times are still, you know, what you're witnessing here on this live, unscripted, unedited video. I feel kind of bad that my video is kind of covering things up here. See if I can, maybe I'll just come down here. And so while we're waiting, if you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to do my best to provide answers to your questions. The computer hasn't really gotten any louder yet. So again, the benchmark doesn't start until after the demo, and the demo is kind of just like, oh, I spoke too soon. It's starting to crank up now. Still not bad though. Oh, it's Jaguar. IZ corrects me. It's Jaguar that wants to go electric only. There we go. It was something British sports car manufacturer. There's only like a couple to choose from. Thank you for the correction. Where can I find the 3D Mark Time Spy demo? You should be able to grab it at Steam. And if you Google for it, you should be able to find Major Geeks and other download places often have it. Can you run the benchmark software without a GPU? Well, Thomas, I'm assuming you meaning without a discrete GPU. There'd be nothing to see without a GPU. You have to have a GPU of some kind. You don't have to have a high-end one. But if your GPU is built into your CPU, it will run this benchmark. Yes, it will. It won't run it very well, but it will certainly, yeah. Yes, it will run. Okay, now the benchmark will be starting. And then hopefully I'm not blocking the frames per second and other information it displays. Let me take a look. It looks like I'm kind of blocking it here. So let me see that I can get out of the way of that. Ooh, listen to that graphics card. Let me step around. You got to hear this thing. It is starting up. Ooh, some heat coming out of that. This is strictly the graphics card that you're hearing. Now, of course, I'm placing the microphone right under the fan, so I'm sure that was pretty loud. But if I put the microphone back here on my shirt, is it blowing my hair? It's like a hairdryer. Woo! Let me get a piece of paper to show you what that's doing. What do I have to use? I gotta have a pad of paper around here somewhere. Well, I've got a napkin. Napkin will do the job, I guess. Let's try a napkin. Not doing too bad. A little bit. Oh, there it goes. Wow. I mean, I can feel it all the way back here. Not sure how much you can see this thing blowing in the wind. And if I move it away, it'll just fall like that. See the napkin? Watch as I raise the napkin. Watch how it bends towards me. Yeah. Could make it a balloon inflator out of that thing. Holy cow. Holy cow. It's working. You don't have to wonder, is my GPU working? Well, do you hear it? Yeah, it's working. Either that or I got a load of laundry going. Again, please bear with us during it's doing just a little bit of buffering today, so that's on my end. Okay. I'm just waiting right now for the connection to reestablish. I'm still having a little bit of difficulty on the internet connection. So bear with me here a second as it tries to reestablish. There we go. Now we're back. So the test just completed. You can hear the fans have quieted back down. And then our final score, as you can see, is 11,529, which isn't really much different, is it? If I just have to go full screen on this for so I can see it. And then let me do a screenshot of this. Try again. Paste. Thank you. And then we'll save as a JPEG. And we'll just change this number to the 3090. There we go. So now we're at 11,898, and with a 3080, we were at 11,888. Yeah, so in some ways, it's worse. It just depends on, of course, on the test we're running on it, and if the test is designed to take advantage of what we have. This is why you can't trust benchmarks to make you happy or not, you know? The benchmarks, well, when this benchmark was designed, the 30 series of cards didn't even exist. So they update the benchmark, but you can see going and changing from the 3080 to the 3090 didn't result in much difference with regards to this test. And again, if we go back and look at the 2080, it's not as though we were limping along. You know what I mean? It's not like we were hurting. So 2080, 3080, 3090. But then the 3090 has twice as much RAM, but you can see that didn't really impact much as far as performance results go on this test. So there's lots of other ways we could demonstrate performance. Let's go back to, what am I doing? Why am I not full screen? There I am. There's lots of ways that we can demonstrate different levels of performance based on the test. And one test isn't universally the ideal test across all platforms. I like to use one test just to have a basis for comparison. And you can see not a whole lot of difference, but there was a whole lot of difference in adding 64 gigs more RAM at like $300 and the 3090 at like $1,700. So an additional $2,000 plus tax and shipping to get what? Ultimately, to get the bragging rights. Here, what I'm achieving is showing you a video that has high-end components in it. That's generally going to generate more clicks and more views for me, and that's going to generate more revenue. And you know, it's a fun little thing to do on the side if you've got that kind of play money. As for supporting it, I wouldn't have any issues supporting this machine. It looks like it's going to be very reliable, and you know, versus the original Threadripper. I am very, very happy with the final result. I just need to get that final piece of plastic. I guess I can do that now. Final piece of glass out of its plastic is what I'm trying to say. And there's a few pieces that have to change. So I think it's this piece has to come out. And stupid me, I tighten those with a wrench because I'm a moron. So let me get the wrench out. Antec gives you this little box of mounting hardware, and in the box there's an Allen wrench. And all I have to do is just give them just loosen them. And then these will just come right off. Because I didn't really have to do anything with the cable management, and the card's running fine off the one power cable. You know, during the benchmark, if the card would have caused a crash or something, I would have added another power cable. And again, no harm in doing it. If you add it, you don't need it. There's no harm in that. I just don't want the extra cable in there because it's going to look terrible. I think that's the only thing holding this piece. Yeah, it is. That's all that's holding on that. Remember, I said this whole thing comes apart, which is kind of cool. So I'm not going to hate on everything about the case, but there are some areas there that I'm not too happy with. So in the styrofoam that came in the box with this case, the glass is, I guess they consider it an option. So you have to put these little pieces on yourself. And so one's got to go, how does this work? Try to remember. I guess it just goes on. No, there's a little spacer, sorry. There's little spacers I've forgotten about. Are they in here? They're probably in here. Yeah. Couple of things. Oh, there's no spacers. Okay. Okay, so this is the way this works. This piece goes back on like we had it. You're never going to work on a case like this. Like the odds of it happening, it's really not really much benefit to me showing you. But in case you're curious, this is kind of a one-off case design. I've never seen anything like it before. I probably won't see anything like it again. But these go on, these little spacers go on instead of the screws. And in this one, I've already put this piece on. That does not come with that piece on. You have to do that yourself. And then you have to put a screw in. It doesn't just screw in like these. There's a physical screw that goes on the other side, and it's on both sides. So when I failed to do that, when I put the motherboard in, I had to take the whole board back out just to put that one screw in. It's really a bad design from Antec, in my opinion. Horrible design. In here somewhere, I've got the glass. Ah, here it is. I mentioned I still have it in the styrofoam, the way it was shipped. And it's still got the plastic on it. I know you like the peel. Show us the peel. Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. There's one side. And we'll do the other side. AC's Drafting contributes $20. Hey, thank you, AC. Now, if I was going to ship this to a customer, I'd be a fool to take that off because that's there to keep it from scratching up in shipping. Now, you don't just want to put the glass. How does this go? Give me a second. Yeah, there we go. I was gonna get it figured out. Now we don't just want to put the screws straight into the glass like that. We could. Certainly Antec doesn't stop you from doing it, but there's little rubber grommets in here to cushion it and to keep you from scratching the glass. And they just look like this. And the way that's gonna work is we just take it and put it over the end of each one of these little posts. And it's a tight fit. You got to kind of stretch it around the post so that when the glass is pressed up against it and tightened, it's going to rest against the rubber of the grommet around the edges and across the back of the glass. So you want the rubber on the bottom where it's flared out. And Antec gives you a lot of these. I don't know why. You only need 8. They give you like a weird number, like 13 or something. I don't know why. Now, throughout this entire build, I have never once referred to Antec's documentation. So there could be a very valid reason that they have included so many more. Or maybe they're extras. I don't know. Ignorance is bliss. I don't think we need them. One of the advantages I have, or maybe it's a disadvantage, I've been in the industry a long time, and having built as many computers, you know, tens of thousands of computers built and repaired and upgraded over the last 30 years, I kind of have a pretty good idea of what's needed and what is optional. So oftentimes I really don't need to look at instructions. Sometimes I do. I think that one, it's smaller. And that one's wider, and this one feels wider. This one should hopefully slide on. Yeah, I struggled with that one because apparently there's 2 different sizes. Again, I don't know what Antec is thinking. It doesn't make any sense to me. They should all be the same. They all take the same size screw. So, I don't know. Just seems like more manufacturing cost. Now I got fingerprints on the glass. I'll have to clean that up later. But now when I put the glass over those posts, it's hitting the rubber grommets, so it doesn't sound quite as harsh hearing the glass hit that metal directly. And then those screws that I initially took out are now going to go into these new posts that I installed instead. Do not use the Allen wrench tool to tighten these down. Just tighten them by hand because you don't want to crack the glass. That's it. The system's done. That's it. Thready's Revenge is up and running in record time compared to the original Threadripper. AMD's come a long way, as have the motherboard manufacturers, in the compatibility issues that we were suffering from with the original Threadripper build. However, that's also because the research was done to pick a motherboard and RAM that were known to work well with AMD. When I build Intel systems, I buy whatever motherboard and RAM I want. As long as it's the right socket type, it just works. So this is a part of AMD I still don't like. It has nothing to do with AMD. It has to do with the motherboard and RAM manufacturers. They're getting better. I mean, they're better today than they were 3 years ago, but they're not at the Intel level of compatibility yet. But it doesn't matter. You can't find their chips anyway. You can find Intel chips, though, and they're available. And if you still want to build a 9700 or 9900K, it's still a very valid choice today. Don't feel that it's obsolete because, you know, we were building those last year. And if you build one a year later, it might feel like, well, this is old, but it really isn't. It's very polished, very refined. The 11th gen Intel chips are not exciting. I wouldn't wait for them. The 12th gen should follow within about 6 months after. So there's going to be this incredible speed of product development because Intel has delayed and delayed and delayed. You have to understand that the way a corporation works is they don't just focus on the next generation. That's one department. Another department focuses on the generation after that, and another department focuses on the generation after that. So while they were still hemming and hawing on problems with the current generation in one department, another department was working on the 11th gen. They had problems, and another department is working on the 12th gen. And then so what happens is Intel will release the 11th gen next. The 12th gen isn't ready to be released, or Intel would just pull it. They're not doing it to eke out any money. They're trying to get you the fastest, best thing at any given time that they're ready to sell. And the 11th gen is almost ready to sell, but the best thing isn't really that much better than the previous gen. When the 12th gen is ready to sell, which should be this fall, then that'll be a difference between the 10th gen that's worthy of considering. But right now, 9th gen or 10th gen is kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other. 10th gen's a little better. 11th gen isn't better enough to be even talking about, since in 6 months after it comes out, the 12th gen will be available, and then we'll be back to the types of gains we can expect in new generations of chips. What AMD's doing is anybody's guess. I don't know what's going on over there. It seems like they just have a huge chip shortage, and it's really hard to get their stuff. And they've raised their prices on their chips, so they're not that competitive advantage they once were. And of course, you'll often pay more for the motherboard, and then you've got to be careful on your RAM selection. But other than that, you know, pick whichever one you like. There's no wrong answers here. They'll both do the same job. You're going to run the same applications, play the same games. It's a Ford and Chevy argument all day long, and there's no reason for you to be taking any decision anybody else makes personally. Buy what you want. And if you don't want somebody to tell you what to buy, then show that same consideration in return to them, please. Does anybody have any final questions? We're going to wrap up today's video. Where are we at on time? I don't know. Oh, we're almost at 2 hours. That's perfect. Let's wrap it up here at 2 hours. So, got a few minutes left. Any questions? Carrie, what incompatibilities have you experienced? If you just search the channel for Threadripper or AMD builds, you'll see in almost every one of them, most of them don't work when they're first assembled. Or I have weird like blue screening problems. You won't find that on any of the Intel builds. It's something unique to the Ryzen, especially the first generation. Lots and lots of compatibility problems. The chips weren't running at the rated speeds. Nothing that isn't all over Reddit and the forums. A lot of people just don't want to look at it, right? A lot of the people who think AMD is the best just refuse to acknowledge that information exists. So I mean, if you actually looked for it, you'd see it's not just me. But yeah, if you go back and look at the Threadripper build from 2 years ago, or look at the first generation AMD Ryzen builds that I did, it was just problem after problem after problem. Most of the time it was the RAM not working with the board, and sometimes the issue was to replace the RAM, sometimes the issue was to replace or upgrade the motherboard BIOS, which wasn't available at the time I built it, but then like a couple months goes by, now there's a BIOS, and then the problem goes away. And then we've had problems with performance not being where it's supposed to be. And then AMD releases a new chipset driver, but AMD doesn't tell you they did it. There's no tool to tell you it's available. You have no way of knowing unless you go and manually, you have to, like with Intel, you can download the Intel driver update tool. It's completely free. And it'll sit in your system tray and let you know if your Intel GPU or your Intel chipset or your Intel networking card, if there's any Intel related products in your machine, it will tell you if there's drivers. And you're not getting it from like some third party like driver installer. I mean, you should stay far away from those things. This is all free on the up and up directly from Intel. No, but you have to manually go and look. Well, about every 3 or 4 months, AMD releases a new chipset driver, and it's done quietly. They don't make an announcement about it, and you don't get that driver. You don't get it. You have to go and get it. If you don't know to go and get it, it's sitting there for free for you, but you'd have no idea it was there. So I was going to work on a little utility, since AMD can't be bothered to put one together, to go and do that for you. Just a little thing to sit in your system tray and let you know when a new AMD chipset driver is available. These new chipset drivers, whether they're from AMD or Intel, what they'll do for you oftentimes is they add to your security, they may add to the features, and add performance and reliability. There's no reason you shouldn't be using the latest chipset driver. I've seen people with AMD systems say to me, Carrie, thank you for letting me know about the AMD chipset driver. My system's running faster now since I installed it than it's ever run since the day I built it. Well, AMD's still maturing. They're still figuring things out. So that's not a dig on AMD. That's how it is. That's why it's happening to AMD and not to Intel. Intel's been doing the same chip for 10 years. They kept polishing and refining the same chip. So people are like, yeah, Intel's chip is old. AMD's chip is new. So AMD's chip is better. No, AMD's chip is like a baby. It doesn't learn how to talk. It's still crapping in its pants. Okay, you take a 10-year-old child and compare it to a baby that's just born, or a baby up to 3 years old, and tell me which one needs more of your attention and help and assistance. So this idea that it's new makes it better, I guess, is great if you're a pioneer, but pioneers are often the ones who get the arrows in their backs, as the expression goes. And I'm not here to dig on one or the other. I'm not a shill for either company. I'm in business to make money. I can't sell a system to a customer that isn't running well, that they expect me to support for free until it does run well, when it's nothing I've done. And there's nothing I can do to control when BIOS updates or chipset updates become available. As such, in order to stay in business and maintain a reputation as a quality system vendor, I stick with manufacturers who have proven themselves over time to be the most reliable, the most sound way to suggest my customers invest their money into their business. And for a while, I was selling a ton of AMD Athlon XPs. I very rarely sold Intel systems in that time frame. I sold a lot of them, and they were great chips. But then when Intel released the Core Duo, for 15 years after that, AMD had nothing to compete. Now AMD's coming back and they've got something here that's worth considering, but it's just going to be a little bit more hand-holding required on it. It's still not mature yet. But every day it's a little better, you know, every month it's a little better, every year. There's a huge difference if you just watch the build video on this Threadripper versus the first one. Just watch the difference of the process. This worked on the first boot, no problem, just like you'd expect it to. And then look at any Intel build on my channel. Also, look at the repairs on my channel. Count how many repairs are AMD based and count how many are Intel based. I don't control that. I don't know why that is. And I'm not saying that, I'm not implying or suggesting that one's better than the other. Listen to my words. Listen to what I said. And then tell me I'm wrong. Because you're going to do that anyway. Hey, there's another contribution. AC's Drafting contributes $10 and another $20. Very generous. Thank you, AC's Drafting, for your continued support. Yeah, so this is the final of Thready's Revenge here. And what I ended up doing, there's no power light on this computer. There's a power light glows, but the power light is in the power button, and I don't like that. This glows red when it's on. So you'll see that light is flashing because I moved it to hard drive activity or solid state activity, because this light is on when the machine's on. I don't need this light on when the machine's on. And they don't give us a reset switch, and they don't give us a hard drive LED. For a $400 case, do you think maybe they could, you know, give us a hard drive LED? So it's just an LED anyway, so I moved the power LED to the hard drive LED section of the motherboard, and then I've plugged this into the power supply. So if the power supply is on, it's not really showing the color, is it? You see the lighting in the room is affecting what the LEDs look like. Let's move this so you can see that that glows red. Maybe I got to cut the lights to do this. I mean, that still doesn't look red to me. Let's try this. Is it red yet? Yeah, it's kind of red. And then if I turn the case this way, you'll see the motherboard has some RGB on the chipset of the board. Which right now is just pulsating. And there's a little LED readout that you can control on the board, I'm guessing with ASUS's software, which right now is telling us our temperatures right here. That's an LED screen, and that information will update and change. In fact, if I turn the machine off right now, let me reach over and turn it off so you can watch that LED screen. I'm going to hit the power button, and it should cycle itself off. And then what will happen is hopefully it'll turn off here in a second. I don't think I hit the button hard enough. There it goes. So you see everything goes off, but you'll see that screen now. Again, all the parts used in today's build, well, this isn't today's build, but in this system, they're all listed in the video notes. You don't have to ask me what part is that. You just have to look at the video notes. If I turn the power back on, watch that little screen. Here we go. You'll see it cycling through all the different power on diagnostics. And then it goes back to our temperatures. I don't know who's going to look at that. Honestly, it's not like it's in your line of vision. I've never seen a motherboard do that before, so it kind of caught my eye. And then we can pull this camera back a little bit, and you can get a better look at the rest of the build. You'll see that's the other part of the motherboard that glows. Again, with the location of the GPU, you almost can't even see it. And with the ASUS Aura software, you can control that. So if you don't want it to pulse, or if you don't even want it on at all, or you want a steady color, or you want it to do other things, it's all controlled through the motherboard software, which you would download from ASUS's website. Looks to be about right about there, I think. That'll do. Okay, and then I should have lighting. It's dark in here, but it kind of looks good. Maybe I'll keep it dark. Wow, do I look short? I really need to tilt that camera down. Or maybe I'll just stand up front. Maybe that's what I'll do. Any other questions? I'll be glad to do what I can to provide you answers. And we're going to wrap it up today. AC's drafting blue. What? The what? We've been having a contribution thing going. The Plow FPV. I don't know what that is. Thomas Backenstow with another $20. Thank you, Thomas. Oh, the Plow FPV is a viewer. It's somebody in the chat room. Well, hey, if that's what AC wants, then that's what AC gets. I'll trust you. And then I'll blame you later. He's blue. Oh, I see the Plow FPV contributed $10. I'm sorry, I missed it. And then the Plow FPV contributed $10 again, and then $5 before that. And those completely got by me. So my apologies. Thank you for your contributions, the Plow. That name again is Mr. Plow. A lot of buffering happening, yes. Not my lucky day today, is it? That's okay, we're getting ready to wrap it up. Thanks again for joining me. Is this a beer? Well, it's a Carry beer. If you like Coca-Cola with no alcohol in it. Luke Greenia joins. Hey, Luke, how are you? He says he just wanted to say hello. Hi. Good to see you, my friend. Mike is saying, see you later. Have a good day. Thank you, Mike. James Prezi says, great content. Thanks for entertaining us, Carrie. Stay safe. I will if you will. Kazaisen says, Carrie, hashtag new tool name, the Holzman Stripper. It doesn't strip anything. It's not a stripping tool. It's a removal tool. He says, how about the Holzman Lifter? Well, it doesn't lift anything. It pushes. It pushes. It presses. It's the Holzman Grinder. I don't know. That sounds like a sandwich. AC's Drafting says, thanks. Well, thank you, AC. Richard S. says, Coca-Cola, Cola, Cola, Coke, Coke, Coke. Referring to Coca-Cola. Mont 1210 says, that's when the system was buffering. Oh, yeah. Kenny Whidden says, good show. Well, thanks, Kenny. Thanks for being a part of it. Merrick Tamaz says, great show. Thank you. Thank you, Merrick. New tool name, the Holzman $2. Well, it's going to be more than $2. I can't make it for $2. Frank Jimmy says, later. Carrie Holzman in chat. See you next time on the next live stream. Blackwatch says, do you advise installing preview updates when first offered? I can't advise you to do that or not to do that. That's really your choice. I will generally test them first on one machine, and if I don't have any ill effects, it's kind of an update to update process. I don't just generally throw a blanket over preview updates. But in this case, this particular preview update, you're going to get it sooner or later. If you want to get it out of the way, then get it out of the way. If you want to wait, then wait. You're going to get it one way or the other. Lee Root with a $5 contribution. Hey, Lee, thank you for that support. If you, thank you from John Paul Bacon there. Again, I know I'm buffering. I see it's buffering. I'm going to patiently wait for it to stop. Okay, it gets better and then it drops again. It's one of those days. Okay, now it looks good again. If you like the video, you can let the content creator of the video know by pressing the thumbs up button with your mouse. It'll cost you nothing. I think it takes about a half a second of your time. And it's probably the kindest thing you can do for a creator. And you may not think much of it. Most people don't. You enjoy a video, you show it to your friends, but then you never ever hit the like button. You know, if you really want more content from that creator, the best way you let that creator know is that like button. So when you don't hit it, you're basically saying you don't want to see any more like it. And then if you want to subscribe whenever you want to know if I'm posting new content or I'm live, hit the subscribe button and then click the bell. And of course, it buffered right when I did that. So again, I'm going to repeat it because it buffered. You can always subscribe to a content creator's channel by hitting the subscribe button. And if you hit the bell, that'll turn on the notifications. If you're using a smartphone or a tablet to watch videos, be sure you download the YouTube app. That's how the notifications are going to let you know. And be sure that app has permission to show notifications. The YouTube app has to have permission to show notifications on whatever device you've installed it on. So a lot of times when people aren't getting the notifications, it's because they don't have the YouTube app installed or they don't have the notifications turned on. So this buffering is really getting bad. Rick Rubisit said, I'm missing your kitchen and the doggies. Well, Lyle just had surgery yesterday. He had some, I guess they're like lipomas, but they were affecting his ability to walk. He was walking with a limp and it was getting a little concerning, and you could pet him and you'd feel these hard lumps. He had numerous lumps. So just yesterday he went under some surgery to have these 3 lumps removed. So he's got a big old scar under his front arm, and he's got one by his leg, and then he's got another one a little further down. And the vet said the one lump in his shoulder was it was deep. She had to really dig it out. It was underneath the muscle. And these fatty tissue lumps, they will come back in time, but take a look on his face. You have to see it. It's so sad because he's always so cocky. You know, to see him looking pathetic is kind of funny. Maybe it's mean, but it's kind of funny because he just looks like he's being punished or something. Let's see if I can find that picture because it's hilarious. Yeah, he's got this look on his face. I got to show you. Look at the look on his face. And you can see where his leg was shaved, where they put the IV. But he looks so sad. Am I being punished? Did I do something wrong? Yeah. He knows. He knows he's cute. But he's just really, that look on his face just kills me. And that's Jimmy's butt that's sticking out of the corner there. But yeah, you can see where he was shaved there and then up and around the shoulder. And he's not doing too good right now. I mean, he's okay, don't get me wrong. But, you know, he just had surgery yesterday. So he's on some pain medication and he's okay. And he's going to feel so much better once, you know, give it about 2 weeks. He's going to start feeling much better. And then another 4 weeks after that, he should be fine. They'll take the stitches out in 2 weeks. And yeah, he'll be fine. But he's old. You know, he's about 10 years old. And so these lipomas, if we leave them in, it's clearly affecting his ability to move. And while he's naturally slower because he's older, he's like way slower than he should be. And seeing him limp is nothing I like to look at. So there's clearly something wrong. We're glad they're not cancerous. We're glad that it's just the lipomas. And although they were deep and they were hard, they were physically hard. Usually lipomas are soft. 2 of them were, like, I'm told by the vet, very hard, and that also made them very difficult to get out. The 3rd one just popped out, like just popped right out, no problem. but those first two were very difficult. I'm sure it was causing him quite a bit of discomfort. So, well, I'm sure he's in discomfort now. Within a couple of weeks, that should all be behind him. And, you know, dogs are good at moving on. You know, they won't, I hope he's going to be angry at me. So he has to go back. They got a drain in one of his surgical incisions, and that drain has to come out tomorrow. Or Monday, not tomorrow. Monday we'll take him back and then have the vet do that. And then 2 weeks, the stitches come out. And so we just have to limit his mobility because he's still trying to jump on the bed and stuff, which he can't be doing. He'll tear his stitches, but he doesn't know. But the stitches are in such a place he doesn't have to wear the cone of shame because he can't like reach that to lick it. We just have to make sure that he's not scratching at it. And the vet, well, they had him under, went ahead and trimmed his fingernails down, his toenails, which should help. And as long as Jimmy doesn't start licking on it, because sometimes dogs will do that. So just got to keep an eye on him. But he'll be fine. He'll be fine. He just had that pathetic look on his face, which is hilarious. All right, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. And I'm so glad that Thready's Revenge was such a better experience than the original Threadripper. And, you know, provided you do get the right motherboard and the right RAM on AMD builds, they can be very satisfying and work right out of the gate. You can roll the dice. Some people have been lucky. But if I were you, if I was going to buy an AMD system, I would make sure that I was buying the right motherboard and the right RAM, which in this case would be Asus for AMD boards, because Asus owns ASMedia, and ASMedia designs all the chipsets for AMD except the X570. And for some weird coincidence, Asus motherboards have less compatibility problems. I wonder if there might be something there. And of course, G-Skill, getting the G-Skill FlareX, obviously on Threadripper, or G-Skill RAM in general. And you're going to pay a bit more on the G-Skill AMD compatible RAM, but you're just not going to have the problems. That's because G-Skill worked directly with I think ASMedia, which again is owned by Asus. So if you do spend the extra money for the Asus board and you spend the extra money for the G-Skill RAM, and again, not just any G-Skill RAM, but there's two of them. There's FlareX and there's another one that are specifically optimized for AMD, then you're probably going to have a great build with no problems. So just FYI. On the other hand, if you want to build Intel, just pick whatever board you want that's compatible with the chip. Socket to socket, you know, socket 1200 chip, socket 1200 board. Any DDR4 RAM you want will work. You don't have to study it. Just any of it works. And again, AMD will get to that point eventually, but in the meantime, that's the status of where it is. And it's getting better all the time. That's why those BIOS updates come out so frequently on the AMD side. They're all just generally increasing memory compatibility. 191x7 has contributed 10 HRK. Says great work on Money Heist Season 4. Keep it up, right on. Well, thank you for the contribution. And thank you guys for joining. Again, thanks to 191x7 for your contribution. Thank you to Lee Root, contributed $10 and then $5. I'll make sure you guys are blue. AC's Drafting and Thomas Backenstow, and AC's Drafting contributed numerous times today. Thank you. The Plow FPV, a couple of contributions, 1, 2, 3 from the Plow FPV. Rick Lakes with his usual $20 contribution. More from AC's Drafting, a $50 contribution from Thomas Backenstow earlier. Coggers Play and David DeWitt, Angel, Frank Jimmy, Colin Hunt, Chris Mole, Freedom Flights, Joe Narciso, Colin Hunt again. And our first contribution was from Rick Hubbard with £5. Thank you guys so much for your generosity. And again, shout out to Anthony Remis, who put me on the straight and narrow with helping with the parts that were going to make this Threadripper build a success. When I did the original Threadripper build, I just did it like an Intel system. I go, well, that's a Threadripper chip, that's a Threadripper motherboard, and that's DDR4 RAM. Wah, wah. Can't do that on AMD. Well, you can, but if you want to be successful 100% of the time, you need to do a little research. So that will change. Like I said, it's going to change eventually. It'll be the same, but we're not quite there yet. But we're in a better place today than we were a couple of years ago when the chips were newer. And as the chips get older, and as manufacturers have time to get their stuff in alignment with what the manufacturers are requiring with the motherboard makers, then it should be 6 of one, half dozen of the other. All right, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Friday, enjoy your weekend, and I will see you all again very, very soon. Until then, bye for now. And now I have to find something to click on to outro my video, so don't mind me, as I'm now the producer who would have done this while I was talking and would have pushed a button once I gave the signal. It's a very professional operation I've got here. Okay, thanks guys. See you next time. Bye for now.